What you just said is one of the most insanely idiotic things I have ever heard. At no point in your rambling, incoherent response were you even close to anything that could be considered a rational thought. Everyone in this room is now dumber for having listened to it.
All right, everyone, this is Tim with Online Big Blue, bringing you the best of New York Giants sports talk and entertainment. I have to laugh because of the fact that sometimes I go on Twitter, and that's what I feel like, and that's what I read, because we're not even going to get into it, but the Twitter sphere is a cesspool. It's a cesspool of stupidity, and you know what? Sometimes you read these things, you look at these things, and you can't get these things out of your head. But you know what? We're here to talk about the Giants. We're here to talk about the next opponent, the next man up. The next opponent, of course, is the Seattle Seahawks on the field of the 12th man. We want to talk about the injuries, though, because the injury bug has followed the Giants. For those that do not know, there is a beast that lives under the stadium at MetLife. Turf Monster Smash! Evidently, the Turf Monster followed us to Jacksonville. And it's not funny, but you know what? I do find it a little bit funny, only because of the fact that, not the injuries, but that people spend so much time blaming the turf at MetLife, but, you know, injuries happen everywhere you go. And it's just part of the game. And I love it because last year I spoke about next man up a lot. And of course, last year the Giants were losing, so when I spoke about it, people were like, next man up, you don't know what you're talking about. Oh, that's just the stupidest thing I ever heard. Now, Brian Daboll says it all this year, and people are like, oh, what an epiphany. That's why we stay off the cesspool known as Twitter. We got to talk about Daniel Bellinger. You know, the poor kid, man. I mean, like I said, an eye injury like that, it's an orbital socket injury. It's a scary injury because of the fact that it has to do with one's vision. His eye became very swollen. He had to get transported to a hospital to take a look at it. He's going to have surgery. And but then he's also going to do some further examination, see what the best options are. I mean, it's a scary injury, man, because I fractured the bone in my orbital socket. I fractured it playing softball, and I took a softball to the face, and it fractured it. And like I said, it took a while to heal, and so I can't imagine having to have that type of injury and going out onto the field and having that type of contact. It's gonna probably screw with you a little bit. But like I said, it was an inadvertent injury. Devin Lloyd did not mean to poke him in the eye. But like I said, it is something that we are going to need to watch. It's something that we're going to need to take a look at. Bellinger, of course, does have 16 catches for 152 and 2 touchdowns. He also has that rushing touchdown because you know what? The magician known as Kafka is working. You know what? We're gonna have to do a Kafka the Great magician sound effect. We're working on that. We're working on a bunch of new sound effects this year. But like I said, it's just something we need to take a look at, you know. I mean, our tight end situation behind that's not that awesome, but you know, we just got to next man up and play along. The other problem we're having right now, of course, is Evan Neal. Evan Neal, you know what? He had a terrible game against the Cowboys. Has really stepped up. In 89 pass attempts, I guess, or pass blocking snaps, he's only allowed one sack. He's getting there. He is listed as something that's going to be more of a you know, week to week. It's funny. Everything for the Giants is always week to week. Everything with the Giants is always that. And like I said, I think it's funny. They're kind of like the Knicks when they report injuries. Everything with the Knicks used to be, oh, he'll be back in a couple days, and 6 months later he's still out. So it looks like looks like it's an MCL injury. He will be. He avoided he avoided the dreaded ACL tear. So, again, you got to keep your fingers crossed. It's a grade 2 MCL sprain, and then, like I said, it's gonna be a while. Not a while, but it's one of those things that you don't want to rush back immediately. You don't want to put him in a position where he can hurt himself even more. And I think that, that it's the Giants at this point in time, yes, they're 6-1, but they need to err on the side of caution because of the fact that you don't want to rush back these gentlemen because of the fact that, honestly, these people are your future. These two players are part of your future. They truly are. They are not going to be part of the past. They're not going to be guys that are going to go away. Do not go quietly into the night. Do not go out without a fight. We're going to go on. I was watching Independence Day, You know, it's funny. I watched a movie yesterday, and it's an old movie from the early '60s, and I didn't see it when I was a baby. I saw it like in the '70s or the late '70s, and it scared the crap out of me when I was a kid. It was called Day of the Triffids. And if you ever gone to, if you ever want to Google that, it's one of those movies that as you watch it now, it's basically what happens. I'll give you a brief synopsis. A meteor shower comes to Earth. Everyone looks at it. Everyone goes blind. And then there's these killer plants that come from outer space, and they attack the blind people. And only certain people can see. So it was one of those movies that freaked you out as a kid, but then as you watch it now, you're like, oh, that's not that scary. Another movie that did that to me was a movie called Gargoyles. It was actually it was a made-for-TV movie in the '70s with Bernie Casey was the head gargoyle. That was a really freaky movie. But let's get over to Ben Bredeson. Ben, and of course, he came over from Baltimore. He came over from Baltimore. He's been playing well enough. You know, he's been literally holding up his own. He was a little bit shaky in the beginning, but he's become solid overall and part of the offensive line the last couple games. Again, he's another one that avoided serious injury with no ACL tear. How long he is going to be out for, again, that's going to be, that's going to be up to speculation. But he definitely is, I would say more likely he's not going to be in the next couple weeks. Again, like I said, it's next man up. You had Joshua, the big rookie, stepping in at the left guard position. And I think it's funny because I think one of the other reasons why the Giants didn't throw extensively in the second half was because of the fact that you did have Joshua, who for all of his abilities to pave the road, is probably one of the worst pass blockers I've seen as a rookie in a while. It's not that he doesn't have the strength or the ability. He just does not. If you watch him, he just does not have the technique to play going backwards. And that's kind of important when you're trying to do some pass blocking. So it's going to be interesting to see how the Giants step this up, how the Giants turn this around, how who on the roster who's going to make that Herculean leap to come over and really step up for this team and fill in for these injured players. It's going to be interesting. Like I said, I have more concerns right now about the injury to Daniel Bellinger, only because of the fact that, suffering a fracture around the eye socket, that is a painful, like I said, I was in my 20s. I took a softball to the face. It cracked, or should I say it fractured, which I guess is almost the same injury. And I know for me, it took 4 to 6 weeks just for the bone to heal. And then the fact that it was still tender. And that was just going to work at a regular job. I mean, like I said, we know you're in a position, you're in a role where it's constant contact, where you're sitting there, literally bashing heads. So I mean, I don't know if there's of course there's not going to be a brace, but I don't know if there's some kind of shield or something that they use to lessen the impact on that. But again, like I said, it's going to be next man up. It's going to be, and you have to have all the faith in the world right now with Kafka and Daboll and the Winker, because the fact that especially, I got to give all the credit in the world to Kafka. He seems to be adjusting on the fly at times to the situation of the game. Sometimes he sticks with things a little too long in the first half, and then he kind of rolls back to things that have worked, or that things that are working in the second half, and he seems to go with that. I wish he would make some of the adjustments a little bit quicker in the first half. Maybe we wouldn't be, always going in, down a couple points at halftime. But it's one of those things that, you really have to just give, big caps, big, tip of the cap. Same thing with Brian Daboll. Brian Daboll has just turned this machine, turned this team on its ear, turned this into something special. Same thing, you got to give all the credit in the world to Wink, because of the fact that Wink thinks that, it's one of those things that the coaching, and I've said it before, and I said it the last couple of years, coaching makes a difference. Standing up at the podium, making speeches and talking and doing the tough guy thing works to a point, and it only works if you win. And the thing is this, you can tell these guys are coached in techniques. You tell these guys are coached in a way that is going to allow them to succeed. And you got to give big props to the entire coaching staff because of what's being done. And you know what? We have to just kind of wait. We got to wait and see what happens on Sunday. And again, this is Tim with Online Big Blue, bringing you the best in New York Giants sports talk and entertainment. And as always, if you can like, you can subscribe. If you can ring that bell, you know what it means. That'd be awesome.